in my opinion. Somebody said something about a negotiation with the administration. I don't really know what's going on. See bike cops moving fast over here. People.
Originally, there was supposed to be a stand-up strike that would have also featured the UAW in full force, which would have made it a much larger, protest. I don't know I don't know who made the decision to set up an encampment early. Okay. But encampment went up today because Genocide Gene is talking to Senate. Oh, it could be. It could also be because I think the deans, like I think presidents and stuff from both UCLA and all these other colleges were at Columbia University. They are all supposed to speak in front of Congress. City University of New York public safety officer just said, "I support killing all you guys," to a group of students who walked out of the graduation of the College of Staten Island. Nice.
You support genocide! You support genocide!
Killing all you guys. How about that?
Huh? Kill us! You're a cold unicorn! You want to kill us? I have you on camera! Yeah. I have you on camera!
That's insane, bro. You're a sergeant. Like, what a psychopath. He's like, yeah, no, I do. I actually, like, even if you're sarcastic, which I assume he's trying to be sarcastic, that is an insane thing to fucking say. Like, actually insane. What are we doing here?
That's what you are.
He's just saying what's on his mind. Yeah. He's like, I see nothing wrong with this. I'm going to fucking openly state it, you know? He's just, that's his, that's what he's got going on. Shows that Hasanabi is far from exaggerating when he says they just want to kill all the protesters. I mean, I am exaggerating, obviously, when I say that. I don't think they want to kill all the protesters yet. Maybe some do, but all right, let's get back to Israel, though, where here's what's going on.
Army to do everything possible.
Insults come thick and fast. Nazis and Hamas, their fellow Israelis, call them. But they continue to try to get the food onto a truck and back towards Gaza. By the end of the day, they told us all the trucks had gone through with little damage. To them, a victory.
And Aya joins us now from Jerusalem. How common have these attacks on aid convoys become, Aya?
They've become very common since April. We've been seeing on social media on an almost daily basis videos of Israeli extremists associated with the settler community intercepting these aid convoys and destroying them. We've also heard reports of truck drivers being assaulted, even if they're not carrying aid at all. So that gives you a sense of the chaos that is around the story right now. If the particular settler group suspects that a truck is carrying aid, what they usually do is that they put a roadblock with rocks and they start attacking the driver. If he is Palestinian looking, if they suspect that he's carrying aid, he's often sort of by himself in that situation. Yeah. And that's really...
Yeah, they're fucking attacking truck drivers, many of which are of Palestinian descent or look Palestinian, because they're like, oh, well, we thought you were carrying aid. Nice, dude. Thanks.
really, the frequency of these attacks and the randomness of it is, as we mentioned, what inspired this group to start organizing. And what they're saying is that their modus operandi is to really try and stand between the aid and the attackers, and also with their presence, because they make their presence very well known to the police, try to encourage and force the police to come and, according to them, do their job.
And chaos is a good way of describing the situation. I mean, what about protecting these truck drivers as well as protecting the aid? What is the police doing? What's the Israeli military actually doing?
So when we were there present, the police was present, and as we tried to show in the report, they sort of tried to keep the two groups separate from each other. But what activists have been saying is that previously, and certainly this claim is corroborated by the visual documentation of these attacks, the police has not been present. And has, in some cases, just stood by and watched these attacks. That's according to eyewitness accounts by activists. And I just want to, paint a bigger picture about the situation with the police in Israel right now for our viewers who may not be familiar. The police is, of course, under the supervision of the National Security Minister, the far-right National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir. And we have seen him in the past couple of days sort of implicitly openly support these attackers, saying that he understands their anger, he understands their frustration. He says that he wants to see them block aid, but that they shouldn't be burning or attacking drivers. So there is some support coming from the man who really controls the police. And he has also boasted about being a member of the Security Cabinet who's actually voted against Israel facilitating aid to Gaza. And there are a lot of accusations coming from the activist community saying that basically, because of this rhetoric coming from political leadership, namely the National Security Minister, police isn't really motivated to do their job. And in fact, the National Security...
It's crazy, man. It seems like, these guys are doing Hitlerian politics out there. What's that about? What's that about? We're so cooked. They demonize starving Palestinians for looting aid trucks, but won't condemn Israeli settlers for destroying and stealing the aid before they can even get in. Yeah, it's just it's rather odd. What's up with that? I thought this was the most moral democracy on the fucking planet. Well, seems not so moral. Seems kind of immoral.
Security Minister has spoken out against the police providing so many resources to protect the aid, saying that he doesn't really understand why so much police is there to protect the aid going to Gaza.
And there's been widespread condemnation of these attacks, of course, from Germany included. How's the Israeli government reacting to that?
Well, I've touched a little bit on what the national security...
Ben-Gvir says he's against the burning, but just because the aid should be completely stopped by state instead, kind of like how Smotrich said water should be erased on the earth, but by the IDF, not the settlers. Yeah. They're like, we should be doing it. We should be burning the fucking aid trucks.
Minister has been saying so. From there, you can definitely see that there's a...
It's fucking nuts.
He's not condemning the violence openly, but there's certainly an understanding for what the attackers are doing. But you're absolutely correct. We're now in a moment where Israel is getting a lot of pressure from the international community on many fronts when it comes to this war. Germany has condemned these attacks. The United States, Israel's biggest ally, has condemned these attacks as well. But we're also hearing a lot of condemnation from Jordan, because remember, a lot of this aid that's coming through the West Bank is originating in Jordan. And that's another, that's Israel's immediate neighbor, an Arab country with one of the old...
Yeah, by the way, the condemnations are, wow, the numbers are crazy. Holy shit. Here's Sin and Marxism at UCLA campus. Condemnations is great, except, you know, as chatters are pointing out, condemnations don't actually feed the Palestinians. You should be taking direct action at this point, you know, against the Israeli state for allowing this to continue, and also doing genocide as well. While you're in the start of the process of like taking actions against the Israeli state, maybe even, you know, extend it further to Israel's offensive ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza. But instead, America only mobilizes against the naysayers, as you can see right here. God forbid you say, dude, stop the genocide. We only have the smoke for those who are critical of Israel and never for Israel. It's pretty obvious where our government stands on the issue. For those who are still like somewhat confused about this process, I guess.
Oldest peace treaties with Israel, now also speaking out about this. And so it gives you a sense of the level of concern that this, domestic issue, we could call it that, is also resonating well outside of Israel's borders at a difficult time for the country and its political leadership in this war.
Context there from Aya Ibrahim in Jerusalem. Thank you.
Here is Brandon.
We've made our position clear on the ICC. We don't recognize the jurisdiction of ICC the way it's being exercised, and it's that simple.
Bro, y'all loved it when it was being enforced against Vladipu, though. What's up with that?
We don't think there's an equivalence between what Israel did and what Hamas did.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's moving ahead with a formal invitation to the Israeli Prime Minister.
By the way, it's insane that we have war criminal, psychotic fascist Benjamin Netanyahu addressing Congress. Dude, I don't understand how delicious it must taste, the Israeli dick, okay? Oh my God, Zionist cummies. Holy shit, dude. It is so crazy. They're like, no, you don't understand. We love it. We fucking love it. Senator Chuck Schumer called Benjamin Netanyahu an obstacle to peace and too willing to tolerate civilian toll in Gaza and call for Israel to hold new elections to replace him. Senator Schumer is 100% right. However, if you look at it, this was, of course, I don't even think this was from March 14th. This was like even before then, for the record. Senator Schumer himself right now is saying things like we need to bring. Senator Schumer was critical of the ICC, trying to fucking bring justice to Benjamin Netanyahu, and is also a part of the people that is inviting him. If I am not wrong, if I recall correctly, I believe that he is also a part of the group of individuals that has invited Benjamin Netanyahu to speak in Congress. So a lot of politicians use the exact same equivalence term to condemn the ICC. Yeah. There is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. I condemn this outrageous move, this dangerous move by ICC. There's no equivalence between Israel and terrorist organization Hamas. The attempt to create moral equivalency between Hamas terrorists targeted civilians for torture, rape, and murder versus Israel defending itself is absurd. To make a false equivalence between the actions of democratically elected government and those Hamas. Senator John Fetterman, Hamas leaders suggest there's a moral equivalence between them. There is none. There is none. There is no equivalence between the actions of Hamas, which is a fucking resistance group against an apartheid, and the nuclear militarized state that is doing the apartheid. There is none. These guys are not wrong. There is no equivalence. One side is clearly, objectively in the wrong, and that side ain't Hamas, let me tell you. Also, ironic, because these guys literally love saying Hamas is democratically elected, and that's why everyone in Palestine, everyone in Palestinian occupied territories is Hamas and must be dealt with. So what's up with that? Which is it, man? Shouldn't democracies be held to a higher standard? Exactly. But these guys use democracy as a shield. Theoretical democracy is being used in this circumstance as a fucking shield. Here's the House and Senate Dems pushing back on upcoming Netanyahu invite to address Congress. AOC says, I don't think it's constructive.
What if Schumer signs on to this invite to Netanyahu to address Congress?
I just don't think it's constructive for Netanyahu to be doing a joint address in this moment, period, regardless of who's sending the invitation.
I think it's Republican mischief in action.
Wow, not constructive. Yes, you're right. AOC and American Democratic Party senators should be like, Netanyahu, if you come here, I'm going to fucking do a citizen's arrest on you. Like, guys, these are politicians, okay? Set your fucking expectation to the correct degree. At least she's called it a fucking genocide, okay? Which it objectively is. And the bar is so goddamn low for politicians that I'm not going to yell at one that at least clears that low ass fucking bar. They're like, chat's like, dude, I don't understand. Why is AOC not saying we have to nuke Tel Aviv? We're talking about a government body that literally censured currently the only Palestinian American representative for saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. You're insane if you think after even watching countless hours of false equivalence, after watching countless hours of the American government doing everything it can, after watching the American state send its Gestapo force to brutalize people for the crime of saying what Israel's doing is wrong, you're still over here being like, dude, what the fuck? What the fuck? Oh, by the way, a fuck ton of Israeli human rights orgs petitioned the Supreme Court today to shut down Sede Taiman. I hold no love for the courts, but they have taken action against some of these human rights violations on rare historical instances. And after long legal battles, we'll see how this petition goes, especially given the international attention this facility received lately. Like, here's another great example of this, right? Sean Fain, who I love. Sean Fain offered support to Biden. Okay. While there are many UAW rank and filers who are literally out there getting arrested and getting brutalized by cops for protesting against Israel, Sean Fain still offered support to Biden. It was a tactical decision. I'm not going to fucking discount one of the most radical union leaders we have seen in American history, in American contemporary history, okay, in recent years for doing that. Because my understanding is that those in positions of power, I'm not going to have the same level of fucking smoke for those who are on my side in times of need. It was voted for by the UAW executive board. It wasn't his call alone. Regardless. I think there are valid criticisms of AOC. She's definitely cozying up to Biden. I think we need to think critically about the relationship socialists will have with their electeds. I think there are idiots that are being misogynist and ultra leftists. Yeah, I totally understand that. Like, AOC is probably not going to fucking say, AOC is probably not going to turn around and be like, you shouldn't vote for Biden either. That should not come as a surprise to any of you. Okay? You can have differences. You can have differences with your elected representatives. What the fuck is an ultra leftist? Ultras are a very ultras are more aggro than the average leftist. When I am criticizing politicians, I have expectations from them. Like when Bernie Sanders says this war was started by Hamas, of course I'm very critical of that. Why am I very critical of that? Because I expect more from Bernie Sanders. I expect more from Bernie Sanders than I do of AOC even. Because he is a fucking socialist for longer than Israel has existed. Anyway, ultra leftism is just, don't even worry about it. It's super aggro. It's super aggro MLs for the most part. What is your Instagram story, Cab? Is AOC coming on? Yes, AOC. Wait, oh my God, was that a? I think that person was wearing a fucking Hasanabi merch. Brett just passed by.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! From the sea to the river! From the sea to the river! Palestine will live forever! Palestine will live forever! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
All right, let's get back to serious news coverage.
Benjamin Netanyahu to give a joint address to Congress soon. It's expected to be a bipartisan invite and an overwhelming show of unity for Netanyahu as a prosecutor, the chief prosecutor, I should note, with the International Criminal Court says he plans to seek a warrant for Netanyahu's arrest for alleged war crimes in Gaza. But while most in Congress are standing against the ICC prosecutor and that announcement that he made to CNN's Christiane Amanpour, there is one prominent exception. He's my source tonight, independent Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, welcome back to The Source.
Good to be with you.
And thank you for being here. What do you make of Netanyahu coming to address Congress? Would you go to that?
It's a terrible idea. No, I won't go. Look, you have a prime minister who has created the worst humanitarian disaster in modern history. Israel, of course, had the right to defend itself against the Hamas terrorist attack. But what Netanyahu has done is gone to war against, all-out war, against the entire Palestinian people, women and children. 5% of the population is now dead or wounded, 60% of whom are women and children. Some 200,000 housing units have been completely destroyed. Every university in Gaza has been bombed. There is now imminent starvation taking place. So why you would invite somebody who has done such horrific things to the Palestinian people is something that I think is a very bad idea.
Well, it's not just, Speaker Mike Johnson. Senator Schumer is on board with this.
Well, I strongly disagree. Look, what the ICC prosecutor has done is very important. What he has said is there must be, war is horrific in general. And I would hope that someday the human race might end war. But what he has said is there've got to be standards. And as you know, last year he went after Putin of Russia, who has kidnapped thousands of Ukrainian children and taken them to Russia. And he said, that's a war crime. Not to mention Putin starting the largest war in Europe since World War II. What he said about Sinwar, the head of Hamas, he said, this is the guy who started the war, committed a terrible atrocity on October 7th. He's a war criminal. He is a war criminal. But when Netanyahu goes to war against the entire Palestinian people, kills 35,000, wounds 77,000, destroys their healthcare system, their educational system, their civilian infrastructure. You know what? You got to have standards. And if you turn your back on that, then the next guy around the world comes and says, hey, we could destroy the whole thing. Let's do it. So
what do you make of what we heard on this? Because the common refrain to that and what President Biden has said is that it draws a false equivalence between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Yahya Sinwar.
I don't agree. No one, Netanyahu is the head of a democratic nation. He was elected. That's true. Sinwar is a terrorist, head of a terrorist organization. That's true. But what the ICC prosecutor looked at is what they have actually did, what they did. And what Sinwar did, what Hamas did, is, to my mind, a criminal violation of international law, no question about it. He's a war criminal. What Netanyahu is doing to the Palestinian people is different, but that is also, to my mind, a clear violation of international law.
Yeah, and we saw that video today of the female Israeli soldiers being tied up and bound.
Disgusting, disgusting. All right, but and what Hamas is, what they did is horrific. They are a disgusting terrorist organization. End of discussion. Sinwar is a war criminal. But does that give the head of a modern, powerful, industrialized nation the right to go to war against the entire Palestinian people? I want to read you one thing, which is important. As you know, Defense Minister of Israel, Gallant, has also been, there's a warrant out for his arrest as well. This is what he said soon after October 7th. He said, quote, Defense Minister, quote, I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals, and we are acting accordingly, end of quote. That is the Defense Minister of Israel. And you know what? That is the...
I miss when Bernie spoke the truth on Israel. I mean...
Any female born after...
Okay, dude, come on. It's just like... It's sad. It's very sad to see from someone like Bernie Sanders, like the equivocation narrative. At least he's like on the other side. But like, this isn't just tone policing. This isn't just tone policing. This isn't just me being like, oh, the optics of what Bernie's saying are like false or whatever. No, he is. There's a lot of colonial language being deployed here. The people resisting against the occupation and apartheid are presented as like barbaric terrorists. The colonial entity here is being presented as a modern nation. This is a way to also reaffirm the commitment that we have to our ally, right? He is, however, on the right side as far as like, criticizing Netanyahu, saying he shouldn't come and speak to Congress and defending the ICC's decisions. So at least he's doing that. And that's not bad. Ultimately, that's a good thing. And I think it does move the needle in the correct direction, at least for many. It's just that it doesn't make any fucking sense. Guys, I love Winnie. I love Maya. I love Peach Jars. But now is not the time, okay? I'm doing fucking coverage over genocide, and there's literally people in the chat chirping at me. Please. Like, read the fucking room a little bit, okay? As a Jewish man, him taking this stance is still huge. What do you mean? There's so many more vocal critics of Israel that are Jewish than Bernie Sanders. He's saying Israel committed war crimes. What more do you want? Do you want him to say it's chill to take hostages? Both warring parties suck. The only innocence of the civilians? No, I don't think you understand it. I don't think you understand my criticisms. Saying Hamas started this war, Yahya Sinwar started this war, is just objectively incorrect. Okay? It's just my criticism of that statement is not because I'm like, oh, Bernie's not saying nuke Tel Aviv or whatever the fuck. It's just objectively false. And I expect more from someone who has been a open socialist and anti-imperialist, who has said way more aggressive things about other supposedly enemies of America, right? And has defended other supposedly terror entities in the past, socialist groups and anti-imperialist groups. AOC gets a pass, though. AOC has been literally further to the left than Bernie Sanders on this issue. If you think that AOC has not been further to the left than Bernie Sanders on this issue, then just say that you look at the aesthetics of something and don't like it when it's a brown woman saying it and move on, okay? Not to get all fucking rad lib on you, sweetie, but it's true. AOC has actually has taken a more radical stance than Bernie Sanders. So has Jasmine Crockett. So has, or not Jasmine Crockett, sorry. So has obviously Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and many of the other squad members. Almost Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Summer Lee. I think you guys are failing to acknowledge this. Bernie lost family members of the Holocaust and he's old, cut him some slack. No. That's ridiculous. Bro, how many fucking Holocaust survivors have we shown on this broadcast, like Gabor Mate and many others? Norm Finkelstein has lost family members of the Holocaust, and he's also old, just as old as Bernie Sanders. It's ridiculous. This is not about like I don't know why you would think that would be that would give him more leeway in this circumstance. The only thing is he's a senator. Okay? Him being a senator, you know, I'm obviously going to have more allowances in that circumstance. I'm obviously going to be more understanding of the sentiment that he expresses. It's just that when he says ahistorical things, that is absolutely, when he says ahistorical things, that's when I'm like, oh, dude, come on. What's Bernie supposed to say? He's got plenty of Zionist friends in his personal life. What do you mean? I'm telling you what he's supposed to say. He's supposed to say exactly what others have said before him and will continue saying after him. Say the truth. October 7 was an atrocity. October 7 led to all of the graphic images that we have seen a million times over at this point. Massive death and destruction upon a civilian population. The majority of the people killed on October 7 were civilians. Okay? That, however, is not the beginning, nor will it be the end of this supposed war that Hamas started. We have to look at Israel's settler colonial occupation, Israel's actions as an apartheid. And that's not me saying it as Bernie Sanders. That's the Human Rights Watch. That's Amnesty International. That's Israeli human rights organizations like B'Tselem that have been openly stating with proof that Israel has been maintaining an occupation and an apartheid regime since 1948, but certainly in the West Bank since 67. To act like this started on October 7 would be a falsehood. That, in and of itself, I hope I hope you guys understand. That's just, I'm not saying anything radical in this situation. I'm just telling you how things actually are. Yeah, it's just, okay, correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't a political calculation here for Bernie to make between one, a movement leader, and two, a policy leader, as someone who leads anti-Israel, anti-war policy initiatives in Congress? Doesn't he almost need to have the more moderate rhetoric so he can get as many senators on board with his bills as possible, especially with how the Senate is, even at the expense of having a holistic, authentic message? I'm not super informed here, so correct me, please. Well, I mean, the standard I think that Bernie should at least abide by is one set by a very courageous Israeli Knesset member who I've had on this broadcast. It is not simply I who is upset with Bernie Sanders' consistent rhetoric on the matter. It's Dr. Ofer Kasif, who tried to communicate with Bernie Sanders long before October 7 and tried to get him to speak out, and has tried to reach him since October 7. and Bernie Sanders has refused to acknowledge him. And regardless, though, Bernie Sanders being a movement leader or a policy leader with this rhetoric is not a political calculation that he's making. Because as you have seen time and time again, the American government is so unimaginably anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Islam, and so unimaginably pro-Israel that, like, it doesn't matter what kind of moderate stances he takes. The outcome will always be the same. Nobody is going to listen to Bernie Sanders and go, oh, yeah, he took a moderate approach to this, so I guess he's right. We shouldn't actually criticize the ICC. As you saw, it's the exact opposite. Now, the thing is, I feel like I have a very healthy approach to this. Which is to not talk about Bernie Sanders in general. If you noticed, I rarely ever cover Bernie Sanders. And the reason for why is because ultimately he's better than 99.9% of American senators on this position, right? So I don't spend a lot of time fucking yelling about Bernie Sanders. Now, the reason for why I don't do that, and the only reason why I'm bringing it up today is because he's speaking specifically about Netanyahu and the ICC here, okay? The reason why I don't speak out about Bernie Sanders more frequently is because I don't care. Like, I think that there are better battles to pick. It's also the exact same reason as to why I don't, while I am sometimes critical of AOC's decisions as it pertains to American foreign policy, she is not my, she's not my enemy. Okay. Now, the thing is, for many, especially in the left, we love to just like clean house. We love to be like, oh, dude, well, this guy's supposed to be a socialist. Like, oh, fuck this guy. I can't believe it. It's like, dude, John Fetterman is out here being like, drop ship me into Gaza. I want to murder Palestinian children. I don't give a fuck about what Bernie Sanders or AOC is saying in that process. You know what I mean? Like, there are infinitely better targets, infinitely more valid targets than people who are, for all things considered, people who are infinitely closer to your side. What? You're just being hypocritical of Bernie because you're anti-Semitic? Come on, dude. It's 1:54. You really think this is a good and valid way to fucking bait? You're just being hypocritical of Bernie because you're anti-Semitic and can't stand it when Jewish people agree with you. Well, Jewish people agree with me about the top of the hour ad break. At least those who are subscribed and also Jewish. They agree because they don't see the ads. If you want to also be a part of the group that sees 0 minutes of ads at the top of the hour, Uncle Habibi, you can subscribe. That was a bad bait, dude. Bad. Damn, exactly. Don't come at me with this weak ass bullshit. Why does your discussion center around critique? Why can't we build up and still disagree? Wait, what? I mean, I am open about my disagreements with Bernie Sanders on this issue. I just am also explaining to you that you will never hear me fucking... you will never hear me spend a ridiculous amount of time shitting on Bernie Sanders. I don't give a fuck. Okay? I don't. Focus your efforts on more productive outcomes. A lot of you openly criticize like the TikTok block list or whatever. Okay? A lot of you openly criticize the block list because like they end up adding like Gigi Hadid and shit onto the fucking block list for not being sufficiently pro-Palestinian or whatever. And then you turn around and you demand more criticisms of like leftist leadership or those who are closer to you than anyone else, unimaginably closer to you in their worldview than anybody else, and why I'm not spending a shit ton of time there. Because I don't care. Because I think it's unproductive. Okay? Having said that, though, go off kings and queens on the TikTok block list, I mean. U.S. government also loves to melt poor people, and Bernie hasn't made any political calculations to be moderate on economic policy, so I think his opinions on Israel are due to a soft lean. Yeah. No, I agree. You're not wrong on that assessment. I think that it is his own personal bias in this regard. That is precisely the reason why I brought up, like, Bernie has defended the fucking Sandinistas and shit. Come on, guys. Like, it's not like he has been shy of offering critical support to those who America has declared enemies of the state or terrorists. Okay? The reason why it's different here is because I think he's a little bit biased. It's sad to experience it. It's sad to watch it. It's sad to see it, but that is the truth, okay? Or at least that's my assessment. Let's continue.
Exactly what they did.
Yeah,
Today, there is no electricity.
We covered those comments, and we've covered also what's been happening, obviously, there. On this front, though, if those warrants are issued, countries that are a party to the ICC will have to arrest Netanyahu and Gallant if they go into those countries. I mean, would you be okay with...
Look, between you and me, I don't think Putin is going to get arrested. I don't think Sinwar is going to get arrested. I don't think Netanyahu is going to get arrested.
Netanyahu.
But the world community has got to have certain standards or else we move into barbarism. And the next
we have moved into barbarism, Bernie. We're doing barbarism, Bernie. Come on, you're a socialist, Bernie. You should see that already, Bernie. Goddamn, Bernie. Damn, son.
Country at war will say, look